We've now gotten a pretty good taste of associations with Mongoose, but there's one last topic that I want to talk about that is somewhat related to associations. You might say it's associated with associations. All right, I'll stop there. The topic that we're going to talk about is something that is not particular to Mongoose. This is something that is common to just about every type of database that exists out there, but we're going to be covering exactly how to solve it by using Mongoose. I want you to think about the situation for a second in which we have a user, a blog post, and a comment. Now we've said that the user is kind of like more or less the root record for blog posts and comments. Yes, comments must have a user, but at the end of the day, if the user doesn't exist, or if the user for some reason just like disappears off the face of the earth, it doesn't really make a lot of sense to still have around a blog post and a comment. Now, maybe for your application, right? Maybe if you are making some forum post or some forum of some sort or a blog post of some sort where even after a user deletes themselves, you still want all their blog posts and comments to stick around, then this discussion we're about to have is not super relevant. But I'm going to sit in a world right now where I'm going to assume that if a user's account ever gets deleted, we will also want to delete all of their blog posts and comments as well. Okay, so that is what I'm talking about here. That's the problem that we're going to look to solve. If we delete a record, like a user, I want to automatically clean up all of their blog posts as well. It'd be great to also clean up their comments, but just to keep our example a little bit more compact, we're just going to be looking at how to clean up blog posts. Okay, so that's pretty much the problem. Given a user who deletes himself, we got to clean up after them. That's pretty much the whole story. So how are we going to do this? Now, of course, we could probably say that whenever we delete a user, just write some additional amount of code to go and find all of their blog posts and delete them as well. But here's the thing, we might have users being like deleted all over the place in our application. Yeah, it's not super common to delete a user, but maybe if we were talking about comments, this would certainly be very relevant. Like comments might be getting deleted all day. So clearly we must have some reasonable idea of figuring out how to do cleanup. To do resource cleanup in this manner, we're going to use a system in Mongoose called middleware. Middleware are also referred to as pre and post save hooks. Actually, let me subtract one word there. I don't want to say save. I just want to say pre and post hooks. So let's get a better idea of how middleware works. Middleware, as I've depicted right here as middleware pieces 1, 2, 3, and 4, are functions that execute before and after some distinct event takes place with Mongoose. Okay? There's two types of middleware. There's pre and post. Pre and post is a reference to what side of some given event that the middleware runs. So that's kind of the textbook definition. Let me give you a much more practical one. One type of event that we might watch for is a save event. So anytime that we are about to save a record to our database, run this function, then after the record is successfully saved, run this one and this one. We can also put a hook around validate. So this would say, before we validate a record, run function 1 and 2, and then after, run 3 and 4. Perhaps most useful for us in the context of the example that we're looking at is an event called remove. So if we add middleware around the remove event, we can have some number of functions that are called right before a record gets removed and or right after a record gets removed. So I think that maybe a great approach to this whole resource cleanup thing is going to be to add a middleware right before the remove event on a user. So the instant that a user is about to be removed, we'll go and clean up all their blog posts and then continue on and delete the actual user. So let's get some experience with writing middleware inside of our user to clean up all their blog posts. Let's do that. Let's take a quick break because it might be a little bit long and then tackle this problem in the next section.